Captain John Miller stood on the bridge of the USS Defiant, his eyes fixed on the endless dark of space. The ship hummed around him, the last working warship Earth had. 3 months had passed since the alien attack. 3 months since the Kravek. Ships had come without warning and destroyed almost everything. Captain, engine check complete. All systems running at 87%, said Chief Engineer Patricia Simmons from her station. Her face looked tired, but her voice stayed strong. She hadn't slept much since they left Earth. Miller nodded. Good work, Chief. Keep them running. Defiant wasn't meant for a long journey like this. It was built for quick fights near Earth, not to travel into unknown space looking for help. But they had no choice. The Kravek had crushed Earth's space fleet in just hours. Cities burned, millions died. The few leaders left made one last plan: send the Defiant, with its new jump drive, to find anyone who might help save what was left of humanity. Commander Lisa Boyd walked up beside Miller. As his second-in-command, she kept the crew working well even when hope seemed low. The crew needs rest, John, she said quietly. We've made 12 jumps in 14 days. People are starting to make mistakes. Miller sighed. He knew she was right. The 300 men and women on the Defiant were the best Earth had left, picked from the surviving military units. But they were still human, still tired, still scared. We'll slow down after the next jump, he promised. But we need to put more space between us and Kravek territory. Boyd didn't argue. She understood their situation as well as he did. If they stopped too long and the Kravek found them, there would be no more humans left to save Earth. Lieutenant Frank Nelson spoke up from the weapons station. Captain, jump drive is charged. Ready when you are. Nelson had lost his wife and 2 children when the Kravek bombed Boston. Since then, he barely spoke except about his work. Thank you, Lieutenant. Let's make this jump count. Miller turned to the ship's pilot. Ensign Ward, take us out. Yes, sir. Jump in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The stars stretched into lines as the Defiant tore through space. The jump drive was Earth's newest technology, not fully tested before the attack. It let them travel farther and faster than any human ship before. The feeling of a jump never got easier, like being pulled in all directions at once while staying perfectly still. Then it ended, and new stars appeared around them. Jump complete, Ward announced. All systems stable, Miller was about to order. A system check when Communications Officer Susan Garcia sat up straight at her station. Captain, I'm picking up signals. Lots of them. Her fingers moved quickly over her controls. Not random noise. These are ships communicating. The bridge went silent. In 3 months and over 30 jumps, they hadn't found a single sign of intelligent life. Now, without warning, they had jumped into the middle of something big. Tactical display, Miller ordered. The main screen filled with a map of nearby space. At first glance, it looked like a star cluster. Then Miller realized each light was moving. There were hundreds of them, divided into 2 groups fighting around a large blue planet. My God, Boyd whispered. We found aliens, a lot of them. And they're at war, Miller added. He watched as the lights moved, merged, and sometimes went out. Each light was a ship, and some were bigger than anything humans had ever built. Sir, Nelson said, his voice tense. Some of those ships are turning toward us. I think we've been spotted. Miller's mind raced. This wasn't how first contact was supposed to happen. They weren't diplomats. They were soldiers on a desperate mission to save their home? Options? He asked. Boyd didn't hesitate. We could jump again, right now. Find someone else, somewhere safer. Garcia shook her head. The jump drive needs at least 6 hours to recharge. We're stuck here. Miller made his choice. Battle stations. Power up defensive systems. But don't target anyone. Lieutenant Nelson, keep weapons hot but don't lock on anything. We're not starting a fight. Red lights flashed as the crew rushed to their positions. The Defiant wasn't built for running. If these aliens decided to attack, the human ship would fight back. Sir, Garcia called out, we're being hailed. Both sides are trying to contact us. This was the moment. Everything could change based on what happened next. Put them on screen, Miller ordered. Both of them. The screen split to show two very different aliens. On the left was something like a giant insect with compound eyes and moving mouth parts. On the right was a being closer to a human shape, but with blue skin and ridges on its face. Both began speaking at once in languages no human had ever heard. Garcia, get the translation program running. Do what you can, Miller said. Yes, sir. It will take time to build a basic language bridge, but I'll try to get simple terms across. Miller straightened his uniform and faced the screen. These beings might be humanity's only hope, or they might be just as dangerous as the Kravek. Either way, he had to try. I am Captain John Miller of the Earthship Defiant, he said clearly. We come in peace, seeking assistance against an enemy that threatens our homeworld. Garcia worked frantically, trying to convert his words into something the aliens might understand. After a moment, she nodded. Basic message sent in mathematical patterns. We'll see if they understand. Minutes passed in tense silence. Then the blue-skinned alien spoke again, shorter this time. Its hand moved in what might have been a greeting. I think the humanoid one is trying to be friendly, Boyd said. The insect one hasn't responded. Sir, Nelson called suddenly. The insect ships are moving toward us fast. Weapon systems activating. Miller made an instant decision. Defensive posture. Shields at maximum. Move us toward the humanoid fleet, slowly. Garcia, keep trying to communicate that we're not a threat. The Defiant turned gracefully, moving away from the approaching insect ships. Miller watched as the tactical display updated with new information. The insect ships were fast but seemed less maneuverable than the human vessel. They're charging weapons, Nelson reported. Impact in 30 seconds. Before Miller could respond, the humanoid fleet moved. Several of their ships placed themselves between the Defiant and the oncoming attack. They're protecting us, Boyd said, sounding surprised. The blue alien on screen spoke again, more urgently this time. Garcia looked up from her station. Captain, I think I've got something very basic. They want us to follow them, the insect group. They're calling them Arikari. They say the Arikari will destroy us. Miller looked at the tactical display again. The humanoid ships, whoever they were, had formed a defensive line around the Defiant. It was a clear gesture even across the barriers of language and species. Follow their lead, Ensign Ward, Miller ordered. Keep our shields up, but show them we accept their help. As the Defiant moved into formation with the alien fleet, Miller felt something he hadn't expected. A small spark of hope. They had come looking for allies and found themselves in the middle of a galactic war. But for the first time since leaving Earth, they weren't alone anymore. Send a message, Garcia, Miller said. Tell them who we are and why we're here. Tell them about Earth. The future of humanity might depend on what happened next. The USS Defiant moved carefully alongside the blue-skinned alien ships. Captain Miller watched from the bridge as the insect-like Arikari fleet fell back, their attack stopped by the sudden alliance. Keep our shields up, Miller ordered. Just because they helped us doesn't mean we can trust them completely. Communications officer Susan Garcia worked non-stop at her station, her eyes red from lack of sleep. The translation program ran through thousands of calculations as it tried to make sense of the alien languages. Captain, I'm making progress with the translation, Garcia said. The blue aliens call themselves the Theron. They've been fighting the Arikari for over 20 years. Commander Lisa Boyd studied the tactical display. Look at these formations. The Arikari have more ships but move together in tight groups. The Theron have fewer ships but they're bigger and seem to operate independently. Different species, different tactics, Miller noted. He turned to Garcia. Any luck explaining our situation to them? Yes, sir. Basic concepts are coming through. I've told them we're from Earth, that we're looking for allies against the Kravek. They recognize that name, Captain. They know who the Kravek are. This was their first piece of good news in months. If these Theron knew about the Kravek, they might know how to fight them. The Theron commander is inviting us to dock with their main ship, Garcia continued. They want to meet in person. Miller looked at Boyd. What do you think, Commander? It's risky, she said, but we came all this way to find allies. We can't do that from a distance. Agreed. Miller stood up. Tell them we accept. Lieutenant Nelson, you're with me. Commander Boyd, you have the ship. Boyd nodded. Be careful, Captain. We don't know anything about their biology. We could be walking into a trap. That's why I'm leaving you in charge, Miller said with a small smile. If things go wrong, get our people home. An hour later, Miller and Nelson stood in the Defiance airlock with Dr. Alan West, the ship's medical officer. They wore simple environment suits, not full space gear. It was a show of trust, but their sidearms showed they weren't foolish. The air should be safe to breathe, West said, checking his scanner. But don't eat or drink anything they offer. The airlock cycled open to reveal 3 Theran waiting for them. Up close, their blue skin had a slight shimmer to it. They stood taller than humans by at least a foot, with long limbs and large eyes that blinked sideways. The middle Theran stepped forward and placed a hand on its chest. I am Admiral Kelnar of the Theran Coalition, it said through a small device on its wrist. The voice sounded mechanical but understandable. Miller copied the gesture. Captain John Miller of Earth. This is Lieutenant Frank Nelson and Dr. Alan West. Kelnar led them through wide corridors. The Theran ship was much larger than the Defiant, with high ceilings and strange curved walls that seemed to flow like water. They entered a round room with a large table in the center. A holographic display showed both fleets, the planet below, and the Defiant. Your ship appeared suddenly, Kelnar said. How did you do this? Our sensors detected no approach. Miller explained the jump drive as simply as he could. The Theran listened with great interest. This technology is unknown to us, Kelnar admitted. Our ships use fold space engines, effective but slow to charge and very energy-consuming. Nelson spoke up, surprising Miller. The lieutenant rarely talked since losing his family. Your weapons systems are impressive, much more powerful than ours. One of the other Theran nodded. Yet your small ship has defensive capabilities we have not seen before. Your shields absorbed Arakari fire that would damage our vessels. Miller sensed an opportunity. Perhaps we have things to teach each other. Kelnar's expression changed, though Miller couldn't tell what it meant. Tell us of these Kravek who attack your world. Miller described the invasion of Earth, the destruction of their fleet, and their mission to find help. When he finished, the room was quiet. Finally, Kelnar spoke. The Kravek are known to us, though we have not faced them directly. They are conquerors who take what they want and destroy what resists. 17 species have fallen to them in the past century. Miller felt his hopes sink. Have any ever beaten them? No, Kelnar said simply. But no species had your jump drive technology either, and none had encountered the Theran before their fall. The Admiral moved to the holographic display and expanded it to show a wider view of space. Hundreds of star systems appeared with different colors showing territory. The galaxy is divided between many powers, Kelnar explained. The Arakari push outward, taking systems from smaller species. We fight to stop them. The Kravek are here. He pointed to a large red area, expanding slowly but steadily. Earth is here, Miller said, pointing to a spot far from any colored territory. We didn't know any of you existed until the Kravek came. Your isolation protected you for a time, Kelnar said, but now you are known. The Kravek do not leave witnesses or survivors. They will finish what they started with your world. Nelson's hands tightened into fists. Then we need to stop them. The Theran who had spoken earlier stepped forward. I am Fleet Commander Zinn. Your ship fought well against the Arakari today, though you did not fire a shot. Your maneuvers were unexpected, creative. Miller nodded in thanks. Lieutenant Nelson is our tactical officer. He's one of our best. Zinn looked at Nelson with new interest. The Arakari fight as a hive mind, predictable but overwhelming. Your ship moved differently. If you fight the same way, Admiral Kelnar raised a hand. We are getting ahead of ourselves. Captain Miller, we propose an exchange. Share your jump drive technology with us, and we will share our star charts and what We know of the Kravek. I'm not authorized to give away Earth's most advanced technology, Miller said carefully. We do not ask for free, Kelnar replied. We offer alliance. Help us fight the Arikari and we will help you against the Kravek when the time comes. Dr. West, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. Admiral, forgive my directness, but you're already losing your war with the Arikari. How could you help us with the Kravek? Instead of being offended, Kelnar made a sound that might have been a laugh. A good question, Doctor. The answer is simple. Together we might win both wars. The Admiral touched the display again. The view zoomed out further, showing more of the galaxy. The Theran coalition includes 7 species who joined forces against the Arikari. Others watch from the edges, afraid to join a losing side. But if we could turn the tide, show that the Arikari can be defeated. Kelnar looked directly at Miller. One victory can change everything. Miller thought of Earth, of the billions counting on his mission. They needed more than just the Theran, but this could be a start. What do you propose? He asked. A test, said Commander Zinn. A joint operation. Your Defiant and 3 of our ships will strike an Arikari position. Show us how you fight. Show us what humans can do. Nelson leaned forward. What target? Zinn seemed pleased by his interest. An Arikari. Supply base. Important enough to hurt them. Small enough that we can succeed. Miller looked at Nelson, who gave a slight nod. Then he turned back to Kelnar. We came looking for allies, he said. Let's see if we can be allies for each other. Kelnar placed a hand over his chest again in the Theran gesture. May this be the beginning of a new future for both our peoples. As they left the meeting, Dr. West whispered to Miller, Do you think we can trust them? Miller watched the Theran walking ahead of them. We don't have much choice, but one thing's for sure. We're not alone anymore. Back on the Defiant, Boyd was waiting for their report. When Miller finished explaining the alliance, she smiled, for the first time in weeks. So we came looking for help against the Kravek, she said, and now we're going to help the Theran against the Arikari first? That's about it, Miller agreed. Boyd shook her head in wonder. One human warship in the middle of a galactic war. Who would have thought? Miller looked around at his crew, preparing for a battle they never expected to fight. Let's show them what humans can do. Chief Engineer Patricia Simmons had never seen technology like this before. For the past week, she had worked alongside Theran engineers, learning about their ships while teaching them about the Defiance systems. Your power cores are amazing, she told Kelbar, the lead Theran engineer. They produce 3 times the energy of our best reactors. Kelbar's blue skin shimmered under the bright lights of the engineering bay. Yet your engines use power more efficiently. Our ships waste nearly 40% of generated energy. Your jump drive wastes almost none. This was the exchange Captain Miller had agreed to, sharing technology and knowledge with the Theran while preparing for the joint mission against the Arikari. Every day, shuttles moved between the Defiant and the Theran flagship, carrying specialists from both sides. On the Defiant's bridge, Miller reviewed the star charts the Theran had provided. The galaxy was bigger and more crowded than humans had ever imagined. Dozens of intelligent species, hundreds of inhabited worlds, and countless conflicts, large and small. Commander Boyd pointed to a large red section on the map. The Kravek control all of this. 23 star systems, most with multiple planets. And Earth? Miller asked. Here, Boyd said, touching a spot far from the main powers. We're in what they call the Outer Reach, mostly unexplored by the major species. That's why the Kravek attack caught everyone by surprise. They've never pushed so far out before. Miller studied the map. So why Earth? Why us? Captain Garcia called from her station. Admiral Kelnar is requesting permission to come aboard with his science team. They say they have information about the Kravek you need to see. An hour later, Miller, Boyd, Nelson, Dr. West, and Simmons sat in the Defiance conference room with Admiral Kelnar and 3 other Theran. One of them, introduced as Science Director Laurie, activated a device that projected a 3D image of Earth. Your planet is unusual, Laurie said. Her voice was higher than the male Theron, rich in rare elements and minerals. But more importantly, your world has this. The image zoomed in to show something Miller didn't recognize, a glowing pattern, deep beneath Earth's surface. What am I looking at? He asked. Energy lines, Laurie explained. Natural channels where planet energy flows. All worlds have them, but Earth's pattern is rare. Very rare. Dr. West leaned forward. Is that why the Kravek attacked us? Yes, said Kelnar. The Kravek technology is based on harvesting these energy lines. They find planets with strong patterns, conquer them, and build devices that drain the energy. It makes their ships and weapons more powerful. Miller felt cold anger rising inside him. They're not just taking our world, they're draining it dry. Yes. But this also explains something else, Laurie continued. Your jump drive. It works differently from our fold space technology because it uses principles similar to these energy lines. We believe humans discovered how to tap into this energy without realizing what it truly was. Simmons looked shocked. That's why the jump drive worked when our other FTL attempts failed. We accidentally connected to these energy lines. Kelnar nodded. Your species has natural instinct for this energy. That makes you very valuable. To us as allies and to the Kravek as enemies. Lieutenant Nelson, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. The Arikari you mentioned. How do they fit into this? The Arikari are different, Kelnar explained. They seek organic resources, living things they can consume or control. They have no interest in energy lines. Miller processed this new information, so we're caught between two expanding powers, one that wants our planet's energy and one that wants biological resources. Yes, but this creates opportunity, Kelnar said. The Kravek and Arikari are enemies. They fight when their territories meet. If we can push back the Arikari, other species will notice. They might join us against both threats. The meeting continued for hours as they shared more knowledge. The humans learned about Theron weapons technology, which focused on raw power, rather than precision. The Theron were impressed by human targeting systems and battle tactics. Dr. West made another important discovery during biological tests. Human physiology is naturally resistant to Arikari biotoxins, he reported. The Arikari use these toxins to make planets uninhabitable for the Theron, but they would have less effect on humans. As the exchange of information continued, Miller saw a pattern emerging. Humans and Theron had strengths and weaknesses that complemented each other perfectly. Together, they might accomplish what neither could do alone. 3 days later, the Joint Strike Force was ready. The Defiant would lead 3 Theron cruisers to attack an Arikari supply base in the Vega system. Lieutenant Nelson had worked with Commander Zinn to develop battle plans that combined human tactics with Theron firepower. The key is surprise, Nelson explained during the final briefing. The Arikari think as a group. They're not good at handling unexpected situations, Zinn agreed. Their ships are fast but follow fixed patterns. If we can disrupt their formations, they become vulnerable. The plan was bold. The Defiant would use its jump drive to appear directly above the Arikari base. Before the Arikari could respond, the Theron cruisers would follow through the jump point, something never done before. Chief Engineer Simmons had spent days modifying the Defiant's jump drive to create a stable path for the larger Theron ships. It's risky, she told Miller privately. Our jump field was never designed to pull other ships through. If it collapses, the Theron vessels could be torn apart. Have you told Admiral Kelnar this? Miller asked. Yes, his response was interesting. He said, great victories require great risks. Miller nodded slowly. He's right. And if this works, it changes everything we know about space warfare. The night before the mission, Miller couldn't sleep. He walked the corridors of the Defiant, checking on his crew. Everyone felt the weight of tomorrow's battle. They had left Earth to find help, not to fight someone else's war. Yet here they were, about to risk everything on a desperate gamble. In the mess hall, he found Dr. West sitting alone. Trouble sleeping, Doctor? Miller asked, sitting across from him. Just thinking, Captain. 3 months ago, we didn't know aliens existed. Now we're about to fight alongside blue-skinned allies against insect warriors from another world. Miller smiled slightly. Not exactly what we signed up for, is it? Actually, it's exactly what we signed up for, West said. We left Earth to find help against the Kravek. We're doing what needs to be done. And if we fail tomorrow? West looked Miller in the eyes. Then we'll have tried, but I don't think we'll fail. The Theron are impressed by us, Captain. You know what Admiral Kelnar told me yesterday? He said humans think differently than any species they've met. We see patterns they miss. We try things they would never consider. Miller considered this. One ship, 300 humans. It doesn't seem like much against the powers of the galaxy. Maybe that's our strength, West suggested. We're new, unexpected. The Arikari and Kravek have fought the same enemies for centuries. They don't know what to make of us. As Miller returned to his quarters, he thought about West's words. Tomorrow would test them all. The Defiant was about to lead its first alien battle. If they succeeded, it could be the first step toward saving Earth. If they failed, humanity might lose its last hope. He touched the small Earth flag patch on his uniform. Everything depended on what happened next. Jump in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ensign Ward counted down. The USS Defiant tore through space, its jump drive pulling the ship through the fabric of reality. This time was different. This time, they were not running away. They were attacking. Captain. Miller gripped his chair as the stars stretched and then snapped back into place. The view screen showed their destination, the Vega system, home to an Arikari forward base. Jump complete, Ward announced. Position exactly as planned. Miller didn't waste a second. Lieutenant Nelson, start target scanning. Commander Boyd, signal the Theron ships to follow us through. The plan was risky. Chief Engineer Simmons had modified the jump drive to leave a temporary tunnel behind them, a path the Theron cruisers could follow if they moved quickly enough. Energy readings from the base, Nelson reported from Tactical. They've detected us, but defense systems aren't fully active yet. We caught them by surprise. Miller nodded. Good. Hold position and maintain the jump field. The space behind the HFY Defiant rippled like water. Then, one by one, 3 massive Theron cruisers appeared. Each was 5 times larger than the human ship, heavily armed and ready for battle. All Theron vessels through safely, Boyd confirmed. Jump tunnel is collapsing now. Signal commanders in, Miller ordered. Execute attack pattern Alpha. The combined fleet moved with precision. The Defiant led the way, its advanced sensors identifying key targets on the Arikari base. Power plants, defense platforms, and communication arrays. The Theron cruisers followed, their powerful weapons ready to strike. Arikari ships detected, Nelson warned. 6 patrol vessels moving to intercept. Miller smiled grimly. Right on schedule, ready countermeasures. The Arikari patrol ships were fast, moving in perfect formation. They approached like a single organism rather than individual vessels. That was their weakness. Fire decoy drones, Miller ordered. The Defiant launched a dozen small drones that sped toward the Arikari formation. Each emitted energy signatures, similar to Theron weapons. The Arikari response was instant. They broke formation to avoid what they thought was an attack. Now, Miller said, the Theron cruisers opened fire, their massive energy weapons tearing through the scattered Arikari ships. Without their tight formation, the insect-like aliens lost their advantage. 2 patrol ships exploded immediately. A third spun out of control. But the Arikari learned quickly. The remaining ships regrouped and launched a counterattack, focusing on the closest Theron cruiser. They're adapting to our tactics, Boyd warned. That's why we planned for it, Miller replied. Nelson, execute pattern Omega. The lieutenant's fingers flew across his console. The Defiant suddenly accelerated, placing itself between the Arikari ships and the targeted Theron cruiser. Before the Arikari could adjust their attack, the human ship released a spread of electronic warfare pods. The tiny devices attached to the Arikari hulls, sending confusing signals to their systems. The alien ships began firing randomly, missing their targets entirely. Base defenses coming online, Nelson reported. Ground-based weapons powering up. Miller opened a channel to the Theran vessels. Commander Zinn, the base is yours. The three Theran cruisers moved into position around the Arikari base, their main weapons charged, glowing with blue energy. When they fired, the combined blast overwhelmed the base's shields in seconds. Direct hit, Boyd confirmed. Base defenses down, 80%. The battle continued for 20 more minutes, but the outcome was already decided. Without their defensive systems, the Arikari base couldn't stop the coordinated attack. More Arikari ships arrived from nearby posts, but they fell into the same traps. The human Theran tactics were too unpredictable, too different from what the Arikari had faced before. When it was over, the Arikari base lay in ruins. 5 Theran ground teams landed to secure important data and technology. The Defiant maintained position above, its sensors watching for any surprise counterattack. Miller stood on the bridge, studying the tactical displays. They had won a significant victory with minimal damage to their own forces. Only one Theran cruiser had suffered serious hits, and the Defiant itself was untouched. Signal from Admiral Kelnar, Garcia announced. He's requesting permission to come aboard immediately. Miller raised an eyebrow. Immediately? Grant permission. Have him meet me in the conference room. Admiral Kelnar wasn't alone when he arrived. 4 other Theran accompanied him, including Commander Zinn and 2 Theran Miller had never seen before. They wore elaborate uniforms that suggested high rank. Captain Miller, Kelnar said, performing the Theran chest-touch greeting. May I present Council Leader Vex and Admiral Tarn of the High Command. Miller straightened. These were clearly very important Theran leaders. Welcome aboard the Defiant. Council Leader Vex stepped forward. He was older than the other Theran. His blue skin faded to a lighter shade. Captain Miller, we watched the battle from our command vessel. Your tactics were remarkable. My tactical officer deserves the credit, Miller said, nodding toward Lieutenant Nelson. He developed most of our battle plans. Vex turned to Nelson with interest. You fight unlike any species we have encountered, Lieutenant. The Arikari rely on numbers and coordination. The Kravek depend on superior technology. But humans, you use creativity and unpredictability. Nelson nodded slightly. We adapt. It's what humans do best. Admiral Tarn, a stern-looking Theran with battle scars across his face, spoke next. The Arikari have controlled this sector for 7 years. We tried 3 times to reclaim it, with much larger forces than we use today. We failed each time. Yet today, continued Kelnar, a small fleet led by 1 human ship succeeded where our best commanders could not. News of this victory is already spreading through Theran space and beyond. Miller felt a sense of pride but also caution. It was one battle, important, but still just one victory. You misunderstand, said Council Leader Vex. This was not just a tactical victory, it was a political one. He activated a small device that projected a galactic map. Already, 2 neutral systems have contacted us about joining the Theran coalition. They have been watching, waiting to see if we could stand against the Arikari. Miller began to understand. And our victory changed their minds. Exactly, Vex said. For too long, the Arikari have seemed unstoppable. You humans showed otherwise. Your different way of thinking, your jump drive technology, your tactical approach. These things change everything. Admiral Tarn stepped closer to Miller. Captain, the High Command has authorized me to propose a formal alliance between humans and the Theran coalition, not just for this conflict but against all threats, including the Kravek. Miller felt a surge of hope. This was why they had left Earth, to find allies powerful enough to help against the Kravek. What exactly are you proposing? He asked. Combined fleet, Tarn explained. Theran ships equipped with modified jump drives, human tactical officers on our vessels, a sharing of all technologies and resources, and... He paused. When the time is right, a mission to liberate Earth. Commander Boyd, who had been silent until now, couldn't hide her surprise. You would commit your forces to free our planet? Vex nodded solemnly. Your battle today proved what humans can bring to this galaxy. If we help you save Earth, we gain millions of potential allies with your unique abilities. It serves both our interests. Miller looked at his officers. Nelson's face showed cautious hope. Boyd seemed skeptical but intrigued. This was more than they had dared hope for when they fled Earth. We would need to discuss details, Miller said, carefully. And I cannot speak for all of Earth's governments. Of course, Vex agreed. But today marks the beginning of something new. One human warship came to our space. One battle changed how the galaxy sees humans. Imagine what we could achieve together. As the Theran leaders left to return to their ship, Miller stood at the viewport looking out at the stars. For the first time since the Kravek attack, he allowed himself to truly believe they might save Earth. One ship, he whispered to himself. One chance, and we took it. 6 months had passed since the battle at the Arikari base. The USS Defiant sat at the center of a massive shipyard orbiting Theran Prime, the main world of the Theran Coalition. Around it, dozens of ships were being built or modified, each equipped with human-designed jump drives and targeting systems. Captain John Miller stood on the observation deck, watching the activity with a sense of pride and amazement. What had begun as a desperate mission to find help had turned into something much bigger. Hard to believe this all started with just us, isn't it? Commander Lisa Boyd said, joining him at the viewport. Miller nodded. 300 humans on one ship. Now look at what we've started. The alliance between humans and the Theran had grown beyond anything they could have imagined. After their first victory, 3 more successful joint operations had pushed the Arikari back from key systems. News spread quickly through the galaxy. Other species, previously neutral or hesitant, began to reach out. Captain, Lieutenant Frank, Nelson's voice came over the comm system. The Council is ready for you. Miller took a deep breath. This is it, Commander. Wish me luck. Boyd smiled. You don't need luck, Captain. Just be your stubborn human self. The Grand Council Chamber of the Alliance, as it was now called, was an impressive circular room with seats for representatives from 12 different species. 6 months ago, only the Theran sat here. Now the room was full of beings from across the galaxy, united by a common purpose. Miller took his place at the center of the chamber. As the only human representative, he carried the hopes of Earth on his shoulders. Council Leader Vex acknowledged him with a gesture. Captain Miller, the Council has reviewed your proposal for Operation Homecoming. Please present your plan to all representatives. Miller activated the holographic display. A detailed map of Earth's solar system appeared, showing the Kravek occupation forces. Thank you, Council Leader. For 6 months we have fought together against the Arikari. We have won battle after battle using our combined strengths. Now I ask for your help to free my homeworld. He walked around the display, pointing out key details. Based on Alliance intelligence, the Kravek have established 7 major bases on and around Earth. Their main fleet consists of approximately 100 warships with another 50 vessels spread throughout the solar system. A representative from the Zora Confederation, one of the newer Alliance members, spoke up. That is a significant force, Captain. More than we faced in any single Arikari engagement, Miller nodded. Yes, but we have advantages the Kravek don't expect. First, they don't know about our alliance. They believe they destroyed Earth's ability to fight back. Second, they've never faced our combined tactics and technologies. He continued explaining. The plan developed over months with input from tactical experts across the alliance. The Defiant would lead a fleet of 60 ships equipped with jump drives. They would appear simultaneously at key points around Earth, targeting Kravek command centers and power stations. The Kravek rely on central control, Miller explained. If we can disrupt their communication and power systems, their response will be slower and less coordinated. Admiral Tarn, now a strong supporter of the human-led strategies, added his voice. This plan maximizes our strengths. The jump drives give us perfect positioning. Human tactical patterns will confuse the Kravek who have never faced them before, and our combined firepower will be sufficient if we strike the right targets. The Council debated for hours, asking questions and suggesting modifications. Miller answered patiently, incorporating good ideas while defending the core strategy. Finally, Council Leader Vex called for a vote. One by one, the representatives indicated their support. Some committed ships, others promised supplies or technical support. When the voting finished, the result was unanimous. Operation Homecoming was approved. As the meeting ended, Miller felt a hand on his shoulder. It was Dr. Alan West, who had become a key figure in Alliance medical research. "We're going home, Captain," West said quietly. "Can you believe it?" Miller looked around at the room full of aliens who had become allies and friends. "I'm not sure I believed we'd survive when we left, let alone return with a fleet." 2 weeks later, final preparations were underway. The Alliance fleet gathered at a staging area just outside Theron space. 60 ships of various designs, each modified with jump drives and crewed by mixed species teams. At the center was the Defiant, now upgraded with Theron weapons and shield technology. On the Defiant's bridge, Miller addressed his crew. Many of the original 300 were now serving on other Alliance vessels, training alien crews in human tactics. Those who remained had been joined by Theron officers and specialists from other Alliance species. "In less than 24 hours, we jumped to Earth," Miller said. "When we left, we were running for our lives, seeking anyone who might help us. Now we return as part of something bigger than humanity has ever known." Commander Boyd, standing beside him, added, "Whatever happens tomorrow, remember this. One ship changed everything. Our ship, our mission." Miller nodded. "Get some rest. Tomorrow we take back our home." The jump to Earth was the longest the Defiant had ever attempted. Chief Engineer Simmons, working with a team of Theron and Zora engineers, had pushed the drive to its limits. As the countdown reached 0, Miller thought of everything that had happened since they fled Earth. The discoveries, the battles, the alliances formed. Jump in 3, 2, 1. Space twisted around them. For a moment, the universe seemed to hold its breath. Then, suddenly, a familiar blue and green world filled the view screen. "Earth," someone whispered. All around the planet, the rest of the Alliance fleet appeared from their own jump points, 60 ships perfectly positioned according to the battle plan. It took only seconds for the Kravek to react. Alarm signals flashed across space as the occupation forces scrambled to respond to the unexpected attack. But they were too slow, too confused by the sudden appearance of ships unlike any they had faced before. Lieutenant Nelson's voice was steady as he reported, "All ships in position. Kravek defense grid powering up but not yet active. We have tactical surprise." Miller took one last look at the homeworld he had left behind. Then he gave the order that would begin the battle to reclaim Earth. "All ships execute attack pattern Omega. Target primary Kravek command centers. Let's show them what happens when they attack humanity." As the Alliance fleet moved forward, Miller couldn't help but think of how it all began. One ship, one desperate mission, one chance encounter with the Theron. And now, a united force returning to free Earth. The USS Defiant had changed the galaxy forever, and today, it would help save humanity. Commander Boyd stood by his side, watching as the first Kravek ships moved to intercept them. "Ready, Captain?" Miller nodded, determination in his eyes. "Let's bring our people home." With that, the battle for Earth began. End of story.